Welcome to the Adventures in Alchemy podcast, where we share tips, techniques, and true stories to support you in using the law of attraction and alchemy to create magic and live the life of your dreams. Here's your host, the founder of dailyalchemy.com, Michelle Martin Dobbins.
Good morning, or whatever time of day it is when you're listening to this. This is Michelle Dobbins from Daily Alchemy, coming to you live, actually not live, pre-recorded from my recording studio in my walk-in closet. I'm in a great mood this morning, so I am really excited to talk to you about some things because I think that sometimes we get really paranoid as spiritual practitioners, law of attraction practitioners, people who practice spiritual alchemy, because we feel like we have to be really careful about what we say and we think, or the bad things are going to kind of bounce back to us. And it's just not always true. And the fact of the matter is, too, it doesn't serve you to hide a bad feeling. But I wanted to talk to you today about claiming the affirmation, I'm not doing it, which I know a lot of people are going, oh, no, that's wrong. That's bad. But let me kind of share with you a little bit more. There's a lady, she has a Facebook page and a YouTube page, and I probably should have looked up her name, but if you just search I'm Not Doing It on Facebook or like YouTube, you'll probably see her videos. They're real short. They're real funny. She uses the filter that gives her the big lips, and she just tells you all the stuff she's not doing. And I find some of them particularly funny when they deal with children in schools and stuff, because I wholeheartedly agree. I think the first one I saw was about like selling fundraising stuff and how she'd rather give you her left kidney than come and ask you if you want to buy some paper towels. So very funny, but there is a lot of truth to claiming what you're going to say no to, what you're just not going to do and not going to have in your life. Those are boundaries, right? And those are good. So I think that, sometimes this can be a great affirmation. And actually, it's not really an affirmation. It's more of what we would call a denial. And this is a term that's used by the Unity Church. And you don't have to be a member of the Unity Church or believe anything about the Unity Church to use these tips. But the Unity Church uses affirmations and denials. And they kind of feel like it's incomplete without both. And I'm not going to pretend to be a Unity minister. I'm not. I went to Unity Church for a long time. And if I choose to go to church now, that's usually where I'll go. But I'm not like a full-time church-going person at this point in time. But I do have a deep and abiding love, because that's where I started really deep into my spiritual journey when I was 22. And one of the co-founders of the Unity Church, her name, it was Myrtle Fillmore, and her husband was Charles Fillmore. And she actually healed herself of tuberculosis back in the 1800s, when tuberculosis was basically a death sentence. I don't think it's still a fun thing to get, and it can be fatal today. But she used an affirmation denial statement that she healed herself with. She basically would go in her room and just be by herself and repeat this statement over and over, which I'm going to share with you now. And that is, I am a child of God and do not inherit sickness. And a lot of people today will tell you that I am a child of God. That's an affirmation. And do not inherit sickness. That's the denial part of it. And a lot of people are really afraid of that. And they would say, no, you would say, and therefore I am always well. And that's pretty much, it is. It's totally fine if that's what feels good to you. But don't be afraid, because sometimes that strength of the denial can work really well. Obviously, it worked really well for her. She was healed of tuberculosis and went on to live a long life and have children after that and whatnot. And so, speaking of Myrtle Fillmore, I've read her biography. Actually, I think I've read 2 biographies on her, and I adore her. She was just a spiritual badass in the 1800s. And she also just did what her heart called her to do in a time where a lot of women didn't have these choices. And one of the choices that she made that I always thought was super cool, because I don't know. Sometimes I go through phases where I like to cook, but a lot of times cooking is just not my favorite thing. I've taught all my kids how to cook early in life so that they can always cook themselves up a grilled cheese or some soup or whatnot, because I'm just, I don't know. I like making podcasts and writing and doing stuff like that. And like I said, sometimes I like to cook, but gosh, sometimes it's just not high on my radar. And for Myrtle, it was not high on her radar. High on her radar was teaching people how to have a spiritually fulfilling life and how to heal their life and how to heal their bodies and their relationships and everything else through the spiritual practices that she and her husband, Charles, came up with through the Unity Church. And, it's basically positive Christianity, positive thought and Christianity, mixed together. So, but she decided they have a place and it's still there. I've never been to visit it, but it is on my bucket list. Maybe I should put it on my list for this year. I'm not sure. Because, gosh, it's out in the Midwest, and forgive me, but I don't remember where right now. I feel like Missouri, but I could be totally off. Anyway, the Unity Village was a place where people could come for prayer. They have a thing there called Silent Unity where people can call in. They used to write in. You can now email for prayer, for positive prayer. And I've done this before many times. And usually what you'll get from them is affirmative prayer and maybe even some denials thrown in there. And anyway, at this village, they did their minister training school, and they have conferences and workshops. And so even back in the 1800s, when they built this and they got this land, they had a cafeteria on there because they had so many people coming and going. And so her and her husband built a house for them on the grounds, their own living quarters. And she had one specific demand, I guess, for her house. And that was that it was not to have a kitchen in it. No kitchen. And I was like, go Myrtle, because, what woman wouldn't like to have a house sometimes with no kitchen? If you had a cafeteria, right within a few minutes walk, why do you need, and I remember reading that she had like a little tea set up and stuff. So she would make herself tea because she had like a tea, something to percolate her tea on and stuff. And she would sit out on her back porch drinking her tea in the evening, and then people would walk by and she would chat with them and sometimes get in long discussions with them, the different people who were there taking classes or conferences or studying. And I was like, that is really an awesome thing that she was able to decide that she didn't want a kitchen in her house. And I don't know. I just really like the fact that she decided what was important for her to do and how to spend her time. Nothing wrong with people who love to cook, but she didn't. And so she stood up for herself in that way. And she also, at that time, I think in the 1800s, childcare tasks were much more labor intensive. Nothing was disposable. I don't think most people had washing machines. I think so much was done by hand, bottle making and all these tasks were so much more labor and time intensive. And she had this church to build, this dream of her life, this mission, her and her husband, because if you look it up in Unity, they wrote out their oath when they established the church and basically declared that that's their life's work. They were going to make this for people to have a spiritual refuge. So her and her husband agreed that her mother-in-law would come and live with them. Obviously, the mother-in-law agreed too. And she was the one who cared for the children's basic living needs. And, as a mom myself who has given up a lot of time and work to care for my children's basic living needs, of course, granted, it's a lot easier nowadays in modern times and nowadays for me because my kids can care for most of their own living needs, although they do need me there for a lot of support and things, but they're older now. They're not babies anymore. But I just for a woman in the 1800s to say, hey, this is not what I want to do and do it. And now, I don't know if mom guilt was a thing back then like it is now, but I don't see her as a person who felt that guilt. She may have had to kind of go through a process, but she knew in her heart, this is the most important thing. And I can tell from pictures and different things I've read, she was still very close to her children, especially as they grew older. And they all took part in the church themselves. But she also knew that where she was needed, where she was called to be, was to lead this church. And nothing against someone who is called to be there caring for their children. We all get to have our own callings and our own heart's desires. But I just love the fact that when she had her heart's desires, she followed them. And so denials, I think, were an important part of her religious practice. And in that case, they definitely worked very well for her. So I also wanted to share with you a few times that denials worked for me. And then I will give you one little warning caveat about using denials before we go. So recently, one of my daughters got an infected ear. And when I took her to the clinic to have it looked at, they were like, it's swollen, so we can't see if her eardrum is ruptured or not. But we're going to order these drops to heal it up, these antibiotic drops. And I'm like, okay. So I went to purchase them and they were like, do you realize how much these drops cost? And I was like, no, but when you asked me that, I'm pretty sure it's not good. They're like, yeah, they're like 170 something bucks. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for some eardrops, right? And I'm just like, I'm thinking in my head, and I think I have some eardrops from my last daughter had the same kind of thing, basically like a swimmer's ear infection. And so I'm like, I just decided at that point, my brain was like, I'm not doing it. I am not spending $170 on eardrops. I love my kids. I would give them anything they need to be healthy, but I've got some eardrops at home that I am pretty sure will work just fine. So I told the guy, I'm like, I'm not paying $170 for eardrops. I have some at home from the last time, And they're like, well, hold on. Let me call the clinic and make sure that you're allowed to do that. And I was kind of like, where do I live? I mean, I thought this was supposed to be a free country. I know that's kind of a joke, but hello, am I allowed to do that? I'm probably going to do it anyway. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to humor this person because in the end, I'm going to do what I want to do. But so the pharmacist comes back and he's like, okay, well, I talked to the clinic and you can't use those other eardrops that you have. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I can if I want. But he's like, it's a possibility because her eardrum is so swollen that we can't see her eardrum that she could have a ruptured eardrum. And I'm thinking chances against this are very slim because although her ear was aching, it was not draining. It was not like when she asked what her pain level was, like 3 of a 10. But I'm still kind of like, well, I don't want to do anything that's going to cause damage just in case. And he's like, but I've got something worked out for you. And I'm like, okay. What do you got worked out for me? He's like, okay, just hold on. So then he comes and he's like, okay, so this is the same medicine. I don't want you to get it confused. It's the exact same stuff that she was prescribed. It's just in a bottle with eye drops on it. So the instructions say, insert, eye drops, put 3 drops in ears twice a day. And I was like, okay, well, how much is this? And it was $7. Okay, people, it was $7. And after this happened, I talked to some friends they were like, oh no, we were told we have gotten those eardrops that you were supposed to get for $170 and we paid $170 for it. And we were told we had no choice. And I was like, well, maybe if you told them you weren't doing it, they would have come out with a different option for you because apparently for some reason we can't figure out why the pharmaceutical companies do what they do. But anyway, whenever I made that declaration and in my mind, and I wasn't upset and I wasn't scared and I wasn't worried, but I was just like, I wasn't mad either. I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And so it all worked out. Another time that I was just like in a similar situation where I was definitely going to need something, like with my daughter, we needed something and I could have tried some natural cures and I do that a lot, but I just kind of wanted her to feel better about her ear because we had tried a few natural things and she was concerned. So, but similar situation, I had signed up to go, our whole family to go to a homeschool trip to France. So he had paid for the lodgings, accommodation, and everything while we were in France. That was paid like a year before the trip. But we're kind of waiting until that sweet spot of 5 or 6 months out from the trip to buy plane tickets when they're at the best price. And I knew when we had went to Italy a few years before, it was $1,200 for plane tickets for each of us. And there's 6 in our family, so do the math. That is like a pricey thing for our family. And I was like, And I was looking at the France plane tickets, and I went back and forth, and I kind of waited a little bit late, and because they were like $1,100. I was like, someone told me they found $800 tickets. No. So I go back, and like everything I'm looking, and they're $1,400. I'm like, you know what? I just think, I don't know, something snapped in my brain, and I was like, I'm not doing it. Well, I mean, I've paid non-refundable to be in France, and somehow I've got to get to France. But I was like, no, I'm not going to pay that much for the tickets, because I heard that somebody else in the group had gotten $800 tickets. And I was like, I'm not paying $1,400. Of course, my brain's not registering the fact that they may have lived in a different part of the country, because people come all over the country on these trips or whatever. But anyway, I was like, I'm not doing it. Not. So every day I would just casually check on, one of the sites what the lowest tickets were. And probably a week later, tickets popped up that were $490. $490 round trip to France. Yes, I bought them that very second. And we were good. But here's the caveat. The thing that I told you I was going to tell you about, kind of the warning of denials. Okay. You can't fake it, right? You can't be upset, and you can't be in resistance, or it won't work. I was not stressed about my daughter's ear, because I knew it was going to work out, and I knew I wasn't going to pay $170 for it. And for some strange reason, I wasn't stressed about the tickets. Like, maybe if time had ticked by, my stress level would have went up, but I was just like, this is going to be okay. So if you're in a point where you're freaking out and you're stressed out and you're like, you're angry, especially you're like, I'm not doing this in an angry point, then that's kind of hard to finesse. So what I would suggest, if you are angry or upset or like just really in a bad place, that may not be the time to use denials. That may be the time to focus more on affirmations, or more on just taking some time out and feeling your feelings. You can just sit somewhere, even if you have to if you're in the pharmacy and you have to go to the bathroom, and sit down and be quiet and breathe, and just feel if you're angry or upset or scared, just feel what that feels like in your body, and then just feel into it until you feel, just enough of a shift. But the trick to do this is to not be sitting there telling this story in your head. Just really, really, this is kind of a meditation practice, and you get better at it if you practice it every day. Even when you're not feeling angry, just go, what am I feeling in my body? Because a lot of times we feel emotions in our body. We feel them in our gut. We can feel them in our throat. We can feel them in our head. Sometimes we feel them in our elbow. But there's a sensation that goes through our body that lets us know, oh, I'm scared, or I'm afraid, or I'm happy, or whatever. So feel that and just let it be what it is, because that is the magic to letting it pass. But then I would still probably recommend, if you're just kind of going through these angry feelings and scared and sad, probably focus more on affirmations. And also, let me just throw in here, if you need some help practicing that feeling your feelings, you can go to my website, dailyalchemy.com, and there's several links on the top and the side for freebies. And there's a place on there where you can get the Magical Freebie Vault, which has all of my freebies really easy for you to get in one little spot. And one of the freebies is called Shift Your Vibe in 5 minutes. And that actually has an audio that will walk you through the steps of that. And it has a little PDF workbook to kind of go through raising your vibe. Because if you're in a low vibration, doing denials in a place of fear, sadness, scared, anything that's low, it doesn't usually work. from that kind of place. But if you do it from a place of love and understanding, that's the sweet spot. All right, so that is all for today because I'm getting a call from my washer repair. I hate to cut you guys off soon. I'd send you big hugs and namaste until next time. Would you like some help creating more magic in your life? I've got a ton of freebies and goodies for you. They're all tucked away inside my magical freebie vault. You can get free access, though. You just have to go to www.dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault. Again, that's dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault. And when you get there, you can just plug in your name and email and you will get instant access to all kinds of goodies. There are daily and weekly manifesting planners, the How to Shift Your Vibe in 5 Minutes e-kit that has audios and a workbook. There are moon manifesting planners and daily love lists and money trackers and all kinds of goodies right there. I didn't want to make you have to go to a bunch of different pages and sites and wait for certain freebies to come out. So I just took all of my freebies and put them in one place where you could just sign up one time and download any of them that you want at any time that you needed. So you can just head on over to dailyalchemy.com/magical-freebie-vault and download them today. Have a magical day.
Thanks for listening to the Adventures in Alchemy podcast. Connect with me on thedailyalchemy.com or Facebook at facebook.com/Michelle Dobbins, author. Join us next time for even more magical life tips.